Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Good evening, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat.
What have you chewed on? Not much. What have you chewed on today, metaphorically or literally? Anything in your world going on?
My tongue, mostly.
Oh, really?
I had one of those days at work where I stepped on every landmine. I threw myself on every grenade. Everything was difficult.
Does that mean, when you say you stepped on landmines, does that mean you were like, you made mistakes and said the wrong thing? Or does that just mean that shit was flying your way no matter what?
I think more shit was flying my way no matter what. But it's like one of those things where you see something is going to be a problem and you go, I could just go on a bathroom break and let someone else deal with this. Or you go, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to see if I can win. I'm going to see if I can fix this situation. And 9 times out of 10, it's not fixable through no fault of your own. And you've just tried to turn yourself into a martyr. And that was my whole day.
I like Thursdays because it's my day off the gym. So it feels I feel like I've got more time. So it was nice.
Like a great example, right? We close at 5. We still had customers in the shop at 5:10. We finally cleared them. And then the phone rang and I picked it up and held it to my head as I turned around, and both my managers were like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you picking up the phone? And I'm like, I don't know, but it's happening. And it was dreadful. I shouldn't have picked up the phone.
Yeah. Bad move. Well, good move is being with us tonight. Good to see so many of you in the chat already. Hello to all. And tonight we're going to be talking about the national-led government's latest response to Israel Gaza. We're going to be talking about I had the wrong name in my head. Sorry, Nicola Willis. Nicola Willis's response on the AM show this morning, basically saying, we don't know how many public servants are going to be unemployed. And I finally had a thought, Chewy, and I'll bring this back in when we're talking about it, but check this out, yeah? This is National Party logic, right? National Party logic goes, the Labour-led government, they spent too much money, they achieved nothing at all, and so what we're going to do is reduce the amount of money and get a better result. I just went today, what? Hang on. So if there wasn't a good enough result with that much money, normally most people would say, we probably need to put more money into it to get the result. We need like more staff or more whatever. But National's actively saying, we're going to get a better result for the public as we are putting less money into public service and cutting numbers of staff. So I don't quite know how that's going to work, but that's the claim that we're going to talk about tonight.
It's because of their innate governmental abilities proven by history that they are better for the economy, and they're better managing budgets, and they get better outcomes through education, health, and people on benefits and stuff like that. That's all proven by history, Pat. All proven by history. Don't look into it. Trust us.
I think it's the don't look into it, right? Because obviously, what a supporter of the conservative economic mindset is going to they're going to go, yes, we'll get better bang for our buck. Yes, we'll do more with less money. But I mean, like, think of any example where cutting staff and cutting budgets leads to a better outcome for the customer, i.e. us voters, citizens, taxpayers, whatever. I don't think it's, but well, we'll delve into that more a bit later on. Let's first say huge thanks to our patrons, and we've had a few new people ending up on the billboard. I might redesign the billboard this weekend because, as you can see, it's bloody full. We love it being full. We could do with it being a bit fuller.
Can I just point out, have I missed Batty Burgers?
Batty Burgers was the other night. Maybe that was the night you came in late.
Oh, because that's a great name.
And every time I hear it, I think about LEG. It's Batty Burgers. That's the only thing that goes off in my head. So thanks to all the fantastic patrons there. And we've got a few new people on the second board as well. We have got Jane V and Ian Fraser, new people on the board. Stuart Hislop there as a patron, and Dean Mitchell actually upgraded from coffee runner to patron. So thank you very much for that, Dean, as well. So since the board's been up last time, we've got 4 new people on there, and we appreciate it. If you want to support what we're doing, if you want to continue to help us in what we're doing, give me a hard job this weekend to redesign the old billboard. That's the challenge, A2. I reckon, 10 more names would make my job a nightmare this weekend. Gosh, to try and redesign. God,
wouldn't it be dreadful if that happened and someone
especially if they were some of those big names. Oh man, that'd be horrible. I'd hate to do that. Patreon.com.
Hours of work per big letter.
/big hairy news. Right, we're going to start tonight. Oh gosh, I've got so many screens, Chewy. Just do a little dance for me while I'm doing this. By welcoming to the show one of the co-founders of Dayenu. Justine is joining us. And good evening, Justine, and welcome to the show.
Good evening. Awesome to be here.
Dayenu, I think I've got that right again, is New Zealand Jews Against Occupation. Do you want to tell us a bit about the group and how you started up and why you started up, and we'll go from there?
Yeah, we are a group of New Zealand Jews opposed to Israeli occupation for Palestinian freedom and liberation. We started up in 2014. There was a really massive incursion on Gaza in that year, and the kind of founding story is I'm one of the co-founders, and my best friend Abigail Allen, she's the other one, and we were in a uni class together doing Middle Eastern studies because we were just totally dumbfounded by what we were seeing, and it was sort of undoing all our childhood, some of the sort of misinformation and indoctrination we'd kind of gone through in Hebrew school, and we were like, we've got to do something. So we started this little group up at uni, and sort of for 10 years kind of squirreled away trying to do work within our community and build relationships with the Palestinian community and just be like an alternative sort of voice for Jewish people. And now, I'm really grateful that we sort of just did that for 10 years, at very many times thinking, what's really the point? Like, are we,
right?
Is it, because it's always seemed like such an uphill battle. So, but very grateful that we have the organization, and it's growing every day, and hopefully we'll be a lot more. We're formally incorporating it, and it's going to be, a community organization and an advocacy organization, which is our aim. So stay tuned for more news from Dayenu.
What is the Jewish population in New Zealand? I know it's percentage-wise, it's small, but how many? It's different, isn't it? Jews versus Israelis. So Jewish people, Israeli people live in New Zealand.
Yeah, the census does try to make a clear distinction between that, because there are, Israeli Arabs, Israeli Christians, obviously Israeli Jews. There's Jewish people in the diaspora, very different categories of people. It depends really who you ask is the answer to that question. So as long as I've been around, it was like there's 5,000 Jews. There's 5,000 to 7,000 Jews in New Zealand. Right. I recently looked at Stats NZ, and that number was a lot lower. So I'm going to go with 5,000. I'm not sure how accurate the last census was. I know there was like issues with the census. So let's go with 5,000 and hope that there's better censuses in the future.
I want to talk after we start this about that representation, 5,000 Jews, because it seems to me from watching what happens amongst the Jewish voting bloc in particular, internationally, America in particular, it seems that the Jewish voting bloc heavily votes left, heavily votes Democrat over there. But it sounds like some of the Jewish lobby group voices are often very much right. Now, this is a little teaser for what we're going to talk about at the end of this conversation. But I'm interested to get your thoughts on where the Jewish community sits. Is it accurate as to where we hear them in the media? Because people like yourself and people like alternative Jewish voices, we don't hear in the media. Is it the New Zealand Jewish Council? Chewy, have I got that right? Is that the ones that we hear from all the time? Yeah, we hear them all the time. So,
they're kind of the media go-to, and we fell into that trap as well.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we weren't talking about necessarily this issue. It was something else. So we went to a synagogue because we thought, we don't know. We went to a synagogue and we got the synagogue to tell us who they would suggest that we speak to, and it was the New Zealand Jewish Council.
Yep.
So yeah, I was fine with that, because you go to the people who you're talking about and they say talk to these people and you talk to them. It's fine. Sure. But that's something we want to talk about. So for people who are watching live and stuff, stay tuned. That will come up soon. But first of all, this is where I really want to start, because it seems that there is, I kind of said this to Chewy beforehand. You know how you have kind of like a hard out and a soft out, or you have a soft launch of a product and then it launches. I don't know whether this is a hard call for ceasefire or a soft call for ceasefire by the New Zealand government. But it seems that they have finally started using those words and got alongside Australia and Canada and basically said, Israel, you got to stop. You've got to stop this BS. Let's have a look at this news story together, and we can stop it as it's going through if you want, Juliet. Sorry, Justine. And we will then get your feedback on the story and what it means, if anything, to the Jewish community.
New Zealand has joined with Canada and Australia in issuing a joint statement saying Israel's planned offensive into Rafah would be catastrophic and urging it not to go down that path. It's the strongest statement yet as the number of people killed in the conflict continues to climb. Here's our political editor, Jenna Lynch.
Vehicles packed to the brim with everything they have left, fleeing the final supposed safe haven in Gaza. Rafah, usually a city of 250,000, now an estimated 1.5 million Palestinians are sheltering here. But Israel is planning a ground offensive, so they must flee back to bombed out buildings, these ruins, now perhaps safer. And with that, the New Zealand Foreign Minister says enough.
The level of inhumanity is out of all proportion now, and whether it's justified or not, the reality is we can't justify this. That's the view.
New Zealand, Australia and Canada standing together today to call for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire and urging Israel not to go into Rafah. The statement saying a military operation into Rafah would be catastrophic, devastating. We urge the Israeli government not to go down this path. There is simply nowhere else for civilians to go.
Feeling sort of powerlessness in a way, accepting the international request is that this not go a step further now.
The statement goes on, there is growing international consensus. Israel must listen to its friends and it must listen to the international community. Palestinian civilians cannot be made to pay the price of defeating Hamas.
But
I think that Chewy, you and I we'll get to the end of it. Chewy, you and I will give credit where credit's due, as we always have. But I am interested now that this is the point that the new government has had to get to before they finally come out to say that. It's like, we'll let Israel get to the nth degree, to 11:59 p.m. before we say stop. But once we get to the end of this, it's got 30 seconds to go, we are still going to have to say it's good that they've said stop. I mean, other countries haven't said it. Do you want to say anything to that, Justine, before we just play the last bit?
No, like 100%. Like, this is a positive development. I think we need to be able to say when there's been a positive development. There hasn't been very many. We've been watching genocide on our cell phones, and our political leaders show absolutely no spine when it comes to sort of calling it what it is. So, yeah, this is a positive development. Why this is now the line they're drawing is an interesting one, I would say. And I can talk a little bit to that. This is weeks after the ICJ said there's a probable case that, Israel's committing genocide in the area. So it's good that, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand have made this statement. I think 28,000 people have died. And so I am, at the same time, like, really frustrated that it's gotten to this point. But yeah, I'm hoping that it does mean something.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the end of the story and then we can have a bit of a chat about it in more detail.
But we expect that we will be listened to.
Rafah is already on edge. Israel targeted airstrikes there earlier this week. 2 hostages held by Hamas were returned, but the price, dozens were killed. Ibrahim Hassouna lost his entire family in such a violent way. He could only identify them by the scraps of clothing left.
This is now way out and has been for some time out of hand.
A conflict out of hand with no end in sight. Jenna Lynch, News Hub.
So there you go. That's the story. And as I said, look, and I know I kind of go to too little too late, but I know that's not the case, because lives will be saved should in Israel listen to a group from the outside. I don't think they will. So I see the chat going on, too little too late, weak as, yada, yada. I actually agree with that. But what would be one step worse is the New Zealand government doing nothing now still. So it's like...
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, it's like getting a participation award at school. It's something better than nothing. But that word was spoken of in that document, ceasefire now, a humanitarian ceasefire now. So, what are we thinking?
Well, the government actually has been making nominal noises about a ceasefire for a while now. That said, their actions haven't matched their rhetoric, like, at all. So, we're one of the few countries to get involved in that appalling military intervention in Yemen, which, we're told has nothing to do with the genocide in Gaza. Of course, the Houthi, rebels are saying, no, it's everything to do with the genocide in Gaza. That's why we're doing it. And I think sometimes you just have to, take people at their word and not, I think a lot of the time when we talk about the Middle East, we don't ascribe any political intention to political groups in the Middle East. Like, they're just terrorists and they just do terrorist things, and that's what it is. It's like, no, people have politics and they act out on that just as we do. And even if you disagree with it, please recognize that there's a political agenda there, not just there's a racist element to that. But anyways, I think we're actively complicit. I think that's the real thing that we got to sit with as a country, and that sits with me as a New Zealander, is that we, in our sort of in joining in the US and the UK and whatever other countries were involved in that, we've actually been kind of actively complicit. So I think that there's some soul searching to do. This is certainly the strongest call for a ceasefire yet, and I just want it to be matched up with some actual action. So the Israeli ambassador is still in Wellington. Expel the ambassador. There is numerous ways we can sanction Israel for its total lack of respect for any international law. There's actions that we can take, and we can show leadership, and we've been really clear about that. New Zealand does actually have a really proud history of having an independent foreign policy. We didn't get involved in the war in Iraq, obviously the nuclear free stuff. We've taken difficult stances. We've stood up to the US, and I just think it's a real shame to not to be totally in line with what these countries are doing. And I think my real worry just about this Rafah situation is look, what we've seen up to this point is, I'm forever changed by it. And I'm sure a lot of the people watching, you can't see what we've seen. I can't even imagine experiencing it, but see what we've seen on our phones for the last 130 days and not be unchanged by it. But what would happen in Rafah would be even more catastrophic if you could even imagine it, because it really is 1.5 million people in the most tiny strip of land, nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's already a humanitarian disaster there in terms of no infrastructure, no food, communicable diseases spreading. So it's just it's really just it's unimaginable if they do go ahead with it. And the thing is, it's really good that New Zealand, Canada, and Australia have said this. The United States has not. They've basically said we don't have any red lines for Israel. So, yeah.
Did Biden come out last week and be a little bit more firm? I'll have a look at it. Two of you go, and I'm going to look up what Biden's latest words are.
I was going to say, one of the things that I read today is that Rafah is about the same size as Heathrow Airport. There's 1.4 million people in it at the moment. And if there's anything that is a consistent thing, is that you mix an invading army with a large civilian population. It's never a good time. I give this government credit for finally deciding to do something. I acknowledge the fact that this kicked off at a really inconvenient time in our political process. I would have liked a stronger statement earlier. I would have liked New Zealand to even follow South Africa's lead or support South Africa in some sort of way. It's great to see us with some traditional allies, Australia and Canada, with a joint statement that is obviously stronger because of that unity. I just wish it was 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Like it's been dreadful and continues to be dreadful because there is no guarantees that Israel is going to listen to us. Traditionally, they go their own way on everything. They have never had to bow to international pressure because the US is such a strong ally. They don't have to.
I mean, this is what like 75 years of impunity looks like. Like that's the end result. Like of never ever being held accountable for your actions because you've got like the world's like it's like imperial hegemonic on your side. But so like literally 75 years of impunity, that's what it looks like. And I don't even think Israel realizes how they look to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Like that is just how far removed they are from any sense of accountability. So I really, look, no, it is a positive development and we just need to see more of it and we just need to see it backed up by some material action. So that's really my take. I'm a South African. I'm a Kiwi South African, Jewish Kiwi South African. Funny mix. And so I was really proud to be a South African and I want to be proud to be, I want to be proud of my New Zealand passport as well.
It's, as you're talking about, with impunity, it ironically makes me think about Donald Trump. The man who's never been held accountable for anything can't understand the things that he's doing wrong. He's now being held accountable for, as an individual. And speaking of America, it seems that the latest over the last couple of days from Biden is that Israel must protect the vulnerable in Rafah. Israel must make credible efforts, is what Biden's saying, to protect the more than 1 million Palestinians sheltering in Rafah. US President Joe Biden says an Israeli offensive should not proceed without a credible plan for ensuring the safety. So they're not.
There's too many words in that sentence, Pat.
Yeah, but I say they're not. I know they're not drawing a line saying absolutely not. But I was just letting people know what they actually are saying.
Yeah.
So they're saying, be careful. But I guess they're saying be careful and go for it.
I mean, I think like the difference between our statement and that statement is like it's really like chalk and cheese. Like Biden is basically giving them the go ahead. I mean, there's absolutely no, and he knows this. He's a smart man. He's across this. There's no way to keep civilians safe. You got 1.5 million people in a place the size of Heathrow Airport. There's no way to do it. So that's why I think I actually was a bit disturbed by that statement because I think it's kind of like it's the way that it's been so like two-faced. It's like on one hand, it's like we are very concerned about the casualties on the Palestinian side and we fundamentally will always support our Israeli allies and here's $14 billion. So he has been making a little bit more noise. And I think that reflects also public sentiment, which is like, we've been out there every weekend, every day on the streets. And I think they are worried about the political pushback, which as they should be.
So speaking of that, Ika says doesn't really matter what Biden says. He keeps while he keeps the weapons flowing, the rhetoric is worthless. Actions speak louder than words, which I think that's kind of bouncing off the back of what you're saying, a similar sort of vibe. They're not pulling out any financially and stuff. It's been quite interesting watching comedian trolls talk to Republican Trump supporters and asking them about supporting foreign wars and angling it towards Ukraine and making the Trump supporters go, no, we shouldn't be supporting, no. And then they go, so should we stop funding Israel as well? And they're like, well, no, of course not. We should fund Israel. But, we shouldn't fund Ukraine. So it's been interesting watching the yardstick of a certain political sphere within America and how they're responding to that. Chewy, anything?
Yeah, look, stop funding Israel. Fund Ukraine more is definitely my position. Like if you want to fund someone, they've got their hand up. Like they absolutely do not need to send more bombs. Like why do they need to send more weapons to Israel? Gaza's run out of hospitals.
Yeah.
What else is there to hit?
And they're running out of buildings.
It's like I joke. It's so grim. It's so grim. And it's just one of those things that just, I was glad to see Winston mentioned how impotent it feels. Like to sort of go, we think you should stop, dude. And it's like standing across the room while you watch a big man beat the shit out of a small man in a bar, and you're just going, oh, I think he's had enough. Stop punching his face. He's gone limp.
And we feel impotent I don't like hearing from the Minister of Foreign Affairs that he feels impotent. You know, like, honestly, like, yeah.
Although it was interesting hearing him saying that, and I've already shut down that window, so I can't go back and have a look at it. He said something like, you know, what's going on now, and for some time. He said something that made it feel like Winston was. I'm sure that actually was an official government policy. I think Winston's, you know, his marbles aren't quite once they weren't square. And I think he went a bit off the cuff there. But he was saying, as our foreign minister, this has been going on like this too much for some time, I think was the line he used. I thought that was interesting to hear him say that as well. And as we've always said, you know, credit where credit's due. People in the chat are saying too little, too late. People in the chat are saying should be earlier. We're saying should be earlier, but better than not at all that they've done it now. Not to give them a pass. We're not now going to go, oh, they're all cleared of the last couple of months because they've done it now. But, you know, as I said, the other option is not saying anything, and they have.
Yeah.
I mean, if ever there was a case, just a clear-cut case for UN peacekeepers, this is it. And it will never happen because of the veto. The veto in the Security Council will mean that peacekeepers never get deployed. Like, I would be 100% be behind if this joint statement was Australia, New Zealand, and Canada commit to deploying peacekeepers with immediate effect into Gaza for humanitarian relief, and we put blue helmets in the way of whatever Israel's got planned. That's what they're for.
Yeah.
But the UN is so hamstrung by the veto, it'll never happen.
I think, like, honestly, like, I completely agree. And, like, you know, the UN is created out of World War II because of the horrors of World War II. Because, you know, they weren't, like, all the things we talk about, like, you know, there are rules in war. You can't just, like, wantonly bomb civilians. Like, all of that came from World War II because humanity looked at that and they were like, whoa, what the fuck? You know? Am I allowed to swear?
Oh,
fuck
100%.
No fucking swearing here.
Fuck, sorry,
no effing and jeffing.
All right, fuck.
This is a family channel.
Sorry about that. You know what I mean? Like, that's the history of it. All these norms, all these agreements, all this never again are we gonna like fight like that. Obviously we want to avoid genocide, and you know, to see that be made a mockery, like to see how hollow that is, I think, you know, it's a real moment for us as like a species. I mean, I think let's say the West will, you know, like the US, like all of us up here in the West, I think, yeah, like we've got there's some soul searching to do. And, you know, I think the idea of international law, UN peacekeepers, that's all awesome. Let's actually like make it work, make it actually like be consistent, because it should just be for when there's like a conflict in Africa and there's no power, you know, like, or resources or whatever you know, or our allies involved.
There is that strange irony as well about the group of people who were the most oppressed in our modern history are now the oppressors. The group of people who faced elimination, like Palestinians in Gaza, are now the ones attempting to, responsible for, if they got it their way, might eliminate the citizens and civilians in Gaza. It's a bizarre thought to go from being the smallest, weakest kid on the last day of school and getting bullied by everyone to going through a growth spurt. And the first day back at school, you're the biggest bully and everyone, you know, bows to you. It's a strange sort of dynamic.
You know, I don't find it bizarre at all because when this all started, we talked to a friend of ours who's Israeli and not a Zionist, and we sort of were like, how could we do this as a people? You know, how could Israel do this? And she said, what, do you think we're different from other people? You know, yeah, people are the same. And I think if I want people to learn one lesson from this, it's that, you know, I really do believe that either you can like deepen your humanity and choose to recognize, you know, your fellow humans when you've gone through like something like that kind of trauma, or you can say, hey, I'm in it for myself, survival of the fittest. And, you know, you hear Israelis say this, like I try to understand their psychology because I don't get it. Yeah. And they'll say things like, if it's not their kids, it's my kids, and I choose my kids. Like, imagine that mindset, you know? And how about
everyone's kids? How about we look after everyone's kids?
How about just kids? We like kids. Yeah. Like, you know, we love our kids. We don't want any kid to be harmed. Yeah. So, like, I really believe that. Like, I think like some people, and you know, so what? I don't think it's ironic. I actually think it makes sense in a way. I think this, and Israelis, you know, sometimes they'll talk to you about it and they'll say things like this. They were like, they looked at what happened in the Holocaust and they said, well, I don't want to be in the camp, so I need to be the God. And that's the two roles that we, and that's the internalization of that horror. And like Israelis, I've had articles, if you can go look up articles written about me in the Israeli press, calling me like weak and like like they actually have this loathing for Jewish people in the diaspora. And a lot of the time Holocaust survivors were mistreated because there's this like hatred of weakness. This is fascism, man.
Yeah.
Any group of people can be fascist, and this is what Jewish fascism looks like. And that's why, I've been on this journey to protect the idea of diaspora Jewishness, because a lot of Jewish culture, Jewish thought, gosh, we love writing. We're creative people. Like there's so much to like draw from, but is totally opposed to this. And is actually like, this is not reconcilable with how I was brought up and my Jewish value, just my values generally, but my Jewish values. And it's actually like, people, sometimes we were at these protests and people will be like, kind of treat us like, oh, you're so amazing for you're so charitable, or you're such an ally. And I want to tell people I'm here for Palestinians, but I'm actually here for me too, because this is like a grave insult to my whakapapa. This is actually like a grave insult. And I can't let it stand, Like my grandfather was he escaped Germany in the 1930s. I don't want to call him a Holocaust survivor because he was never like, he escaped. But his whole family were killed in Lithuania as well. So it was just him and his brother and sister, got on a boat, didn't know where it was going, refugees, nothing, but like their clothes on their back, built a life in South Africa. They were very upset to end up in South Africa. They thought they were going to New York, ended up in South Africa. Okay, we can't get everything we want. So that's where I come into the picture, being South African. But like his whole view of the world was totally like, he, like when they said never again, he meant it. And he meant like, he hated racism. He was a trade unionist. He was a socialist. Like I'm insulted. I'm insulted to have my culture and my family, like I feel like my family's name being dragged through the mud by this disgusting fascist country. So yeah. I think that's the compulsion that kind of speaks to us, because like we also got to save the soul of our people. So that's why we got to do what we got to do. But yeah, no, I guess what I'm saying in this long monologue is that I'm not surprised this has happened. I tried to understand it, and I do understand the road this has taken, but I hope people kind of understand there's actually a lesson for all of us in this very tragic kind of outcome of the history of the aftermath of the Shoah, the Holocaust.
Yeah. I'm intrigued now that I talked about this at the start of the conversation, we'd come back to it about the trade unionists and where the Jewish community sits politically as well. But True, before I go there, because that's a bit of a diversion, do you want to say anything else about where we're at right now?
I just want to say and just acknowledge something that you said, which is just an absolute king hit of a word combination that they just shouldn't go together. Jewish fascism.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Look, I've said many times on this show I'm a student of history, and I've traveled Europe. I've read about World War II and everything that led up to it, the crimes of the Nazis. I've seen the camps and all of that sort of thing. And from that, I can 100% understand, I guess, the mission statement of the IDF when Israel was formed was no Jew is going to march into a camp again without a fight. You can't question that. That absolutely makes sense. But I think this is just a show that the longer that goes on, how seductive power can be for people. And it's like, we're not on the bottom anymore. We're on the top. Being on the top feels pretty good.
Yeah.
Though, can I? And I'll just and I won't go on too long, but I will say this.
Hang on. Sorry, Justine.
Oh yeah.
Take as long as you want, mate. I'm
okay,
not
all
leaving this.
Cool.
Honestly, don't feel rushed at all. Just do what you need to do.
Okay. All right. I will. I'll go on my monologue then.
Yep.
Why the fuck are the Palestinians the ones who have to pay the price for the crimes of Europe? That's my question. 2/3 of Jews are eliminated in the Holocaust. That's like, when I think about that, I just like, whoa. Like, that's something that sits on me, right? 2/3 of my people are killed. And Europe is like, you know what? We really can't live with you guys. Like, we just want to kill you too much. We need to give you your own country because otherwise we're just going to kill you again and again. Like, that's so fucked up. And then these, like, people who never did anything wrong, who lived with Jews for thousands of years, you know, Jews and Palestinians were living in that land, had to pay the price for European fascism. And then, you know, and then it turns into this monster. Like, I don't know, like, it just, like, you know, Edward Said, he's, if people don't know him, like, a very, very famous Palestinian academic and an amazing writer. I mean, if you ever want to read something about, he wrote some amazing books about Palestine. But, you know, he said, like, Palestinians being the victims of victims is, like, an unenviable position to be in, because, and I think that is the crux of it, being the victims of victims. But I think we're at the end point of that now. You know, I think, like, whatever, I just don't. There's just no excuse, and there never has been. But I just don't. I really feel like, you know, to see Germany come up all pro-Israel really pisses me off. You know, like they say they're so self-righteous about it too.
I Germany's in such a position there, though, aren't they? As like the correct move for them would be like, we've seen shit go down before because we were doing it, and we recognize this again.
Yeah. Well, do you know what I think the correct position for them to do? Because they, you know, I think Germany is one of the most ridiculous countries on the planet right now, and I say that because there are German Jewish people. There's not a lot of them. But there are German Jewish people being cancelled by non-Jewish Germans. And they have, like, commissioners of anti-Semitism. They're not Jewish. Going around telling people, like, you can't even imagine how ridiculous Germany is right now. But, yeah, I get they're in a difficult spot. I say, like, probably my biggest advice for Germany would be shut the fuck up and just, shut the fuck up. How about that?
In a perfect world, like, when I think about South Africa making that case to the court, imagine if it was that 1-2 combo of South Africa going, we did apartheid and it was bad and we see it again here, and Germany, what did you have to say? Oh, genocide is bad because you also did a big genocide and learned some lessons from that. Okay, so there you go. The guys that came up with apartheid and the guys that industrialized genocide have come together and said, hey guys, this is a bit fucked. Maybe you should stop.
I think if we actually learned the lessons from history, but that would be the case. But, you know, I think this is showing us, again, soul searching, eh?
Yeah. 100%.
I just realized, and I didn't want to be culturally inappropriate, that I was wearing a cap with pork on the front, and I thought,
oh no, put it back on. Put it back on. I love bacon. Yeah, I love bacon.
I didn't want to be cancelled by someone for being religiously intolerant and wearing a various cuts of pork on my head. So I apologize if anyone was offended.
I think that would be a good thing to explain to people. So I love bacon. Firstly, I want to just tell people that, so not bring me bacon. But I think that's another interesting thing, because you're talking about talking to the synagogue. Yeah. You know, because Jews, like, people think, when you say Jews, like, do you think a religious community? Do you think an ethnicity? The truth is, it's both. And, like, you can be an atheist Jew. A lot of people, they're like not religious.
Hang on. Are you saying you can be an atheist Jew, or that's a question people ask?
No.
Because I always think about Jewish as the religious context and Israeli as the people from Israel.
Well, it's a bit more complicated than that, yeah. So, you can be. No, not no, because I understand it, and I do get this a lot, and I like explaining it to people. Like, the truth is, it is an ethnicity, like. It's an ethnicity. So you can be an atheist Jew. Judaism is the religion. Jewish is the ethnicity. Israeli is a nationality. Not all Jewish people are Israeli. I'm probably the best person to talk about this. I have nothing to do with Israel. I have some family that I've never met there, and I probably will never meet them. So far removed from me. Like, I've never been there. I'm actually banned from Israel, so I wouldn't be able to go anyways.
Well, hang on. You can't. No, hang on. You can't just skip past that. We'll come back to what you're saying, but you're banned. What? Why?
Do you guys remember when Lorde cancelled her concert in Israel in response to that letter in the spin-off?
Yeah.
That was
me and my Palestinian friend Nadia, yeah. And we got sued.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my legacy. That's like my claim to fame. I do love just putting it in there and then being like, yes, it was banned from Israel. And people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I owe some Israeli teenagers because they sued us for emotional damages for the outcome of like the Lord cancellation, and so technically we owe some Israeli teenagers like $40,000 and so we raised that money. We raised it and we gave it to a mental health charity in Gaza. And so that's my claim to fame. Yeah.
That is. I'm so glad we paused. I'm so glad we paused because we had to hear that story. And for people who are on the audio podcast, you can't hear this. I've now got up an article that's more than 6 years old. Lord cancels Israeli concert after pro-Palestinian campaign. New Zealand singer cites an overwhelming number of messages and letters she received as having led to her decision. The New Zealand singer-songwriter Lord has cancelled a planned concert in Israel following an online campaign by activists opposed to the Israeli occupation of Palestine.
Well, if you look me up, you can find the stories on the suing, which is ridiculous.
You absolute champion. It's the best thing I've heard in a long while.
People love the story, right? Because the end bit of like, yeah. It was not my idea. Like, I got to give the credit to Nadia. She was like, what if we raise the money and we give it to Gaza mental health charity? I was like, stop the presses. That's the fuck. Yeah. Of course, we're going to do amazing. That. Yeah.
Do you know if there was any donations made by Lord? Did Lord make a donation to that?
I think I can tell the story now because it's such a long time ago. But yeah, her team.
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna throw all the shit away for the rest of the night show. Yes, go. Let's hear.
Now her team. I'm not sure if she made a personal donation, but her team reached out to us. She's quite horrified, I think, by the fact that we were targeted because they intentionally. So basically, this law firm that's like honestly, it was all insane, but this law firm that's associated with Israeli intelligence agencies, they're known for this strategy called lawfare, where they like sue people to like basically shut them up. They previously sued like Jimmy Carter for writing a book about Palestine. Anyways, so they were the ones suing us, like real shady shit. Like some Israeli woman showed up at my house, was like, "Does Justin Sachs live here?" And I was like, anyways, but yeah, so what my point is that Lord did contact us and say, can I help you pay this fine? And we were like, no, please don't. We don't want to give them, a cent. So yeah, she's awesome, and like credit to her. She canceled the concert. They tried to blame us. We just wrote a fucking article in the spin-off. Like, who the fuck reads that? Well, apparently Lord, but whatever. But besides that, like, sorry to the spin-off, love your work, but it's not like the New York Times. Like, we weren't, we didn't think there was anything like major. We were like, oh, we'll write a little thing in the spin-off, whatever. And then it turns into an international incident, and I'm on, like, my face is plastered on CNN. It was crazy.
Do you know what I love about this show? I love about this show that we have no ad break to get to, so we have to cut things short. Because we've just gone from stupid joke about a pork hat to talking about pork, to talking about you being banned from Israel, to talking about Lord, and now I want to bring us back to not cut you off entirely, to talking about the last thing you said was, and I'm banned from Israel, and we went whoa, because talking about you're not Israeli, you're not associated with Israel, so we can go back there now if you like.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not. Long story short, I am a Jewish person. I'm South African, Lithuanian descent, never been to Israel, and will not be will not visit apartheid Israel. So unless it's free, Palestine is free, Israel, Palestine is free, I won't be going there. But yeah, so, but I'm Jewish and I'm not particularly religious. I'm pretty unsure about the whole thing. I mean, I've, done shrooms and thought I saw some kind of, sorry. I'm just going off now on a different tangent, but I'm not particularly religious is what I'm trying to say. This is how I describe, do you believe in God? Well, I've done shrooms. Anyways, but, I'm not particularly religious, but I'm very attached to my Jewish identity. I am Jewish, and it's a culture, it's a religion, it's an ethnicity. And so it's not just a religion, and that's important because a lot of the institutions that you'll talk to when you approach the community will be a small section of the community. It's who speaks for Pākehā, and then going to like, I don't know, City Impact Church and being like, well, these are the Pākehā represent, you know what I mean? Like, but you wouldn't know that, and I get that. But certainly, like, I would just say that, so I guess like these institutions are obviously more conservative. They're, more religious, and they tend to take a far more conservative line. But the community is a lot more diverse. And certainly, I mean, if you want to talk about the states, I mean, there's a stereotype about Jews, and like, look, I can talk playfully about it. Whatevs, I'm allowed. That we're either like communists trying to like, undermine Western civilization, or we're like controlling, like the capitalist puppeteers, like, certainly, like, if I'm gonna be one of the stereotypes, I think I definitely fall on the communist side. So I mean, look, those stereotypes aren't accurate, but I will say there's a long history of Jewish people being involved in social justice struggles, in socialist movements, in the trade union movement. That's certainly like a legacy that I really identify with, my family really identifies with. And the state of the Jewish community, the mainstream Jewish community now, does not reflect that at all.
Yeah, because I mean, that's something else this is where we were going before we got talking about your very good friend Lord for a little while there.
Tangent.
Sorry, I call her Ella, but anyways.
Yeah, okay. Is to talk about the representation within the Jewish community that you see, because what you see through your screens is a very conservative, quite religious group. I keep forgetting the name of it, but it's the Jewish Council of New Zealand, or the New Zealand
New Zealand Jewish Council, yeah.
Okay. They're the go-to people. It's like I used to sit in the News Talk ZB newsroom, and I've heard this conversation. Hey, we need a crazy Christian to make a comment. Hey, let's call Bob McCoskrie. That's what I've literally heard that conversation, right? So I know that probably in the same newsrooms, it's like, we need a Jewish perspective. Oh, the New Zealand Jewish Council, who are very conservative, who are very, very quick to label everyone anti-Semitic for being critical of Israel's defense policies. And like I said, in America, it seems to be, well, it not seems to be, it is, the stats show very clearly that the Jewish community votes heavily for the left more than the right. What is the representation within New Zealand that you see in the Jewish community? Are they more liberal lefties? Are they more conservative righties? Is it an even spread? What do you see?
I haven't seen like research around, particularly political identifiers, but I want to talk about sort of the attitude towards Israel, because it is a lot more divided than certainly like our representatives would make it seem. Mm-hmm. So, last survey that was done in 2019 showed, a good like 40% were critical of like the occupation and things like that. Now that doesn't mean being an anti-Zionist. So, I'm an anti-Zionist. I probably I would say that, we are a minority, but there's a significant contingent of Jewish people who are very critical of Israel. And the New Zealand Jewish Council sort of is this unaccountable, in many ways, really an unaccountable, and, I'll say it, unelected representative body that, in historic times has not taken on this role. So it's really quite troubling, I think, for a lot of Jewish people to see the New Zealand Jewish Council, which should be advocating for New Zealand Jews, take on this role. And, there's another organization called the New Zealand Zionist Federation, okay? And they are, what it says on the label, they're there to promote Zionism in Israel and to defend Israel. That's the appropriate avenue, in my opinion, for someone like Juliet Moses to be spouting her vile incitements and racist rhetoric. I think that's the appropriate avenue. And I'm really angry about the disservice this does to Jewish people, because I just actually want to be really clear. This conflation of Jews with Israel, of anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, it's not just like offensive and wrong, and like obviously it makes people quite scared to say anything because they don't want to be labeled anti-Semitic. Who wants to be labeled a bigot, right? But it actually puts a target on our back, because here we have Israel in like daylight, just doing the most unimaginable, horrific, disgusting acts of really like of terror and violence and genocide, and then you've got these reps being like, if you have a problem with that, you must hate Jewish people. And then, what's the logical conclusion to that? Well, I do have a problem with that. And I guess where does that lead people? It kind of like, it leads people in a really bad direction, and I think it puts a target on my community, and I do not appreciate it. I don't appreciate it. I went to academic college. The thing about me is I'm their kid. All right, I'm their kid, and a lot of their kids are like, we're here and we're taking a very different line, and we're very critical, and we're anti-Zionist, and whatever it is. When I see my ex-school, because I went to Academic College, which is the Jewish school in Auckland, right. They were calling out Chloe Swarbrick because she said, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," and they're saying that endangers the kids. When I hear like my ex-school bringing like the safety of Jewish children and like to score a political point, like let's be honest about it, like to score a political point, that makes me really angry because children are being made like used as political pawns to like silence criticism of a nation state that's committing these unspeakable crimes. And to be honest, no nation state should be above criticism. Oh my God, like where are we going? Like it's beyond belief. Like, have you I was thinking about it, like I speak to Americans. Americans love hating their country, eh? Like especially liberals. Like it's like, it's important. Like we're all very critical. I can't imagine having this attitude where like anything goes. You can't say anything or you're like anti-Semitic. It's an insane position, and it's putting us in danger. And it's just delusional. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it being given like so much airtime. And I think a lot of it is like, frankly, I just think people need to like smash through this fear of anti-Semitism is real. Like anti-Semitism is real, and it is a real problem. How the fuck am I supposed to talk about anti-Semitism when I've got these people with real important positions in my community using it as a political pawn? I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out because I feel, I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. Like people always ask me this. Sorry, now I'm going on another one of my monologues, but when I go to these protests, they say, well, these protests can't be anti-Semitic because there's Jews here. And the protests aren't anti-Semitic, but I've seen anti-Semitism at the protests. And luckily I know the organizers and we shut that shit down. But there is anti-Semitism because of course there is, because you're literally saying, if, like the mainstream Jewish community is saying is, if you're anti-Semitic, go there. Go be critical of Israel. Like they're saying, they're inviting them to the party. Anyways, so that's why I'm there, because I also have to be there to like advocate for my community, because I want to sit at the table, because I don't want to be just being a deluded, like, I just think this is all crumbling. You know what? Like, I think in 10 years it's going to be like, I mean, I hope so. It's hard to have hope in these times, but I do hope that this is changing, and I hope that we have more responsible community leadership.
Well, I think when it comes to talking about hope, it's when you look at what you're doing, that is kind of echoed by some of the people that we have asked a very similar question to. How do you maintain hope? How do you fight against that feeling of hopelessness and impotence that clearly Winston is feeling at this difficult time? And it's by standing up to be counted. And that can be lonely, but you need to be brave. And I think hats off to you. You are doing exactly that. So, yeah, credit.
Thank you.
I was just going to say, you said before we came on that you've seen the show and you sort of know the format. So you understand when we ask you to come on for 10, 15 minutes and we talk for 50, that's sort of about of how we go. So hopefully you're okay with that. But I don't want to stop anything that's still flowing, but I guess it feels like we're coming towards the end of our chat for today, which we'll have more of, I hope. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Chewy asked an amazing question last week of Professor Margaret Mutu, which is, as non-Māori, how can we help what you're doing so you don't feel alone? Is there something from within the Jewish community that the allies and non-Jews can do to help what you guys are doing to feel that you're not alone? What do you want to leave us with? Everyone watching, like everyone in the chat, I don't know if you can see the chat or not, Justine, but they're all just like, this is amazing. Preach, Justine, keep going. This is amazing. So is there anything you want to leave us all with? Me and Chewy are part of the audience as well. As we're wrapping up for this evening with you.
Yeah, don't be afraid of criticizing Israel. Go hard on criticizing Israel. It's not anti-Semitic, and you are doing a mitzvah, so that's a good deed in Hebrew. Anti-Semitism is real. Call it out. Listen to Jewish people of conscience, because we know that it's serious, and we part of the reason we want to stand up and be counted is because we also want to advocate for our communities. as I said earlier, like, this is a tragedy, and I hope we take some universal lessons from it, because I really do believe that, you can either turn, I think pain and trauma, you can either deepen your humanity or turn away from it. And I think that Israel is a really good sort of example of that. I think Palestine is going to be free. I do think the arc of the universe bends towards justice. And, stand up and
that phrase.
Yeah, well, that's Martin Luther King Jr., not me.
Oh, that's probably what.
No, I want to claim it. It's me. I did that. I wrote that.
Well done.
Thank you for having me on, and love the show. This is awesome. Keep it up, and kia ora.
Well, there's already a insistence in the chat that you come back, so anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome. If people want to find out more about your group and what you guys are doing, is the Facebook place the best place to go, or how do they connect?
Depends what generation. Like, if you're Gen Z, go to Instagram. No, I'm just joking.
Ouch.
No, it's all kids. We got a Facebook, we got an Instagram, NZ Dayenu. Go find us on Instagram. We're gonna have a website soon, so stay tuned for that. And we also we have an email address, nzdayenu@gmail.com. I can send you all this if you want to put it in notes or whatever. Yep. We're out here. We're actually having we're going to be having a Shabbat sing session for Rafah outside the US Embassy on Friday at sunset in Auckland. So, we do little actions like that. Look, there's not a lot of Jews, so it's not like we can have a big protest here, but we're trying our best with the numbers that we have.
Hey, Justin, this has been amazing. It's actually, to be honest, and I'm not going to drop Chewy in it, but both me and Chewy kind of came tonight, so going, I feel a bit tired today. It's been a long week. And I'm just like, okay, this is good. We have lots of energy. So thanks for bringing that spark into the show tonight. I'm speaking on behalf of the hundreds of people that are watching now and the thousands that will see it over the next few days. Thanks for doing what you're doing. And I always say this to people who we don't really know. Thanks for trusting us and coming on and giving us your time. We could have done anything. We appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk again super soon.
Kia ora.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
Kia ora.
Well, there we go.
15-minute interview. In and out.
7 minutes. We need a 6-minute interview. 54 minutes
Quick show. We'll do a quick show.
I was thinking, Chewy, at the end of each show, what I've been doing recently is downloading the whole show and then cutting up the segments, like the 3 big segments we've been doing. I think tomorrow's highlights is going to be 1. That's the segment. Although, no, in saying that, it's only 5 too. I think we can probably do the finance minister one as well, because we have teased it and I think it is worth doing. But before we do that, listen, we don't have to rush away. Especially because we've just had apparently the best interview ever. There's an award for that, I think. Is there anything you want to wrap up with? I mean, is there anything you want to say about this in particular?
There was one thought that I had when we were talking about, is being a Jew a religion, is it an ethnicity or something like that? And I think a really key bit when we're talking about genocides and stuff like that is the Germans didn't just round up the practicing Jews. For them, it was a heritage. It was a bloodline. It was so. Yeah, I completely get that Jewishness transcends the faith, because that's how people have measured Jews in the past. Yeah. So you can't just duck out and say, I don't go to synagogue, I don't go to temple, I'm not really Jewish, because historically there's been the chance that someone will come along with a clipboard and go, tough fucking luck, get in the train.
Do you know what? When she was saying that, something kind of resonated to me a little bit, and it's not quite the same, but I grew up in the Catholic Church, yeah? I have nothing to do with the Catholic Church anymore, but one of the places I want to go more than anywhere is Vatican City. So when she was saying it's sort of part of your identity, I can sort of get that. Like, I grew up, when I was in the Catholic Church, Pope John Paul II was the Pope. He died, would have been 2010, 2008, something like that. I watched his funeral and cried. It's like, I've got nothing to do with this place, but there's a part of me which is deep down, which is still a part of that because of my upbringing. And when you talk about being identified as that, I can remember I'm sorry to always say it, but doing talkback. So I was in my 30s, and I hadn't had anything to do with the Catholic Church for 20 years, and people phoning me up and go, yeah, but you're Catholic, eh? And I'm like, well, no, but you were born and christened and raised a Catholic, eh? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, so you're a Catholic. I'm like, well, So as you're saying that, it kind of, I'm not trying to go, so I know what the Jews are going through. It's not that at all, but I kind of can see a bit more what they mean by not necessarily, so people might identify me as Catholic, even though I'm not religiously Catholic whatsoever. And you think about Catholicism being a religion. So yeah, okay, I can kind of work that out a little bit. I can see what they're saying.
Vatican City is cool. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Thanks.
It would
Good
be
flex,
better
by the way.
Rome is just fucking crazy. I do think they should put Vatican City back to what it was, though. Because the fucking Hippodrome. It's mad cool.
Yeah.
Have chariot races. Chariot races are better than the Pope in a glass car or whatever he does.
I want to put one more chat up. This is from Nick. It's a bit depressing, but I think it's still really interesting. We were talking about the people who are most oppressed now doing the same sort of oppressing. Nick says, I don't like using it as a bullet, but you're right, Pat. The Jews learned how to oppress a people for sure. So that theme kind of came out as well. They've been taught by which is interesting to go back to Germany. They've been taught by the best as to how to do it. And if Germany is sort of going down that let's defend Israel thing, they're the people who taught them back in the day. Not blaming them today, obviously, but you know what I'm saying, the history of. Yeah. Alrighty. Really good show, really good interview. By the way, if you hadn't got it so far, we won't be opening up Discord tonight. We're not going to be doing that tonight because
for unknown reasons.
Yeah,
unknown reasons.
Right. Let's have a quick look. There's only a couple of 1 or 2 minute clips with these, but it's interesting just to wrap up on something we're going to talk about because Nicola Willis was on AM show this morning talking to Lloyd, and they were talking about the unemployment that's going to be coming to many public servants, but also they started the conversation by talking about what's happening in Christchurch at the moment with the fire, which we haven't really talked about. So thoughts are definitely with people in Christchurch what that's going on.
Well,
and this was quite an interesting.
Why is Lloyd dressed like a Bond villain?
I think because he's about to go, my precious, with a cat. I think that's the answer.
Yeah, that's what he's missing.
He asked an interesting question, and I just want to play this question. It's only about 30 seconds, and then we'll talk about it.
I guess you've got money set aside for disasters like this.
That's right. And look, our focus at the moment is on the response on the ground. Our emergency management minister, Mark Mitchell, flew down last night. I understand there are 135 first responders there today, along with multiple helicopters and aircraft. So we wish all those responders the very best as they work to get out the fire. And we're just so grateful that no lives have been lost or anyone injured at this stage.
Now, I think it's fairly obvious to say we're all definitely, thinking about the fire and hoping the best for it. And we're happy for the government to use public coffers to help in that area. That's what we do. That one question made me think of two things, Chewy. All the people who are like, why should I care about the council next door's pipes? My city's made up for it and got their own. Then you go, okay, so fuck you, Christchurch, look after the fire yourself. It's not how we operate. But the second thing was, Lloyd's question was, we've got money set aside for this, eh? And she said, yep. Here's a question. How do you get money set aside, Chewy? You get it by having a surplus, by having something left over to be able to put aside, not running a zero balance budget, giving all the money back to landlords and stuff, and not having some left over to put aside. And when I heard him ask that question, and Nicola Willis go, oh, yep, we've got money set aside. Okay, thanks, Labor, for that money set aside, because those are the ones who set it aside. But what about this government reducing a whole bunch of income coming to the government? And we said this before the election, Chewy, for the next disaster. Yours, sir.
Yeah, like I was talking to someone the other day, and, it's a year since Gabriel. Yep. Absolutely wreaking havoc, right? And since then, I've seen some updates on roads being opened and that sort of thing, but I haven't really heard a lot about the recovery or how much it costs or how that area on the East Coast is doing, because we just don't hear from the East Coast a lot anyway. But how is it going? That was described as one of the most expensive things outside of the Christchurch earthquake.
I think it's either the most expensive or it's second. I think it might have been the most expensive.
Yeah, but it's gone. It's out of the news cycle. We don't care. We don't know. And I think just that question of, Nicola, we've got money set aside for stuff like this, right? And she goes, oh, yep. Like, expand.
Where's that come from? Who set money aside for us, Nicola?
Where is it in the budget? How is it replenished? How many disasters a year can we deal with? You know, that sort of thing would have been comforting to hear, as we know that storms and disasters of various types are going to get more frequent and more severe, especially weather-related ones. And this is exactly what it is. This is what we're looking at the Port Hills. This is the second time in, 10 years that the Port Hills has caught fire. We knew that the summer was going to be hot and dry, so fires are going to happen, and then right on cue, big fire.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, and if I was a frontline firefighter doing the hours, doing the dangerous, dirty work, and hear, like, you know, what support are we getting from the government? If someone said Mark Mitchell was on his way, that would not inspire confidence.
I want to say this again, because
give him a bucket and send him up the hill.
For all the haters from the last government, if there's money set aside to handle this, who do you think set it aside? Previous governments. No one can say it was all Labor, but they had the last 6 years.
Though.
So
Labor
if there's money set aside, who do you think set it aside, or at the very least left it set aside? Just remember that for next time. Right, next question. They talked about CEOs of public entities not complaining about 6.5% reduction in their budgets, and they went on to talk about what that was going to look like. And she was, I think I've missed the question where she said none of them complained. None of them complained about that. We've just had meetings. They're all happy about it. It's no problems at all. That was the first part of the conversation. Then we went into this part.
Not one of them, you said. Is that because they were too scared to say we can't deliver what you've asked us to deliver? Or is it because they actually can deliver it?
Can I just highlight that laugh and that smile as we're talking about people losing their jobs and public sector having less finances? That's the smile.
Remember how joyful she was to announce pre-Christmas job cuts?
That's the smile and the laugh when we're talking about livelihoods being lost and public service having less income put into it. That's the laugh.
I think they can deliver it. I think many of them know that the track we've been on as a country is unsustainable. An 80% increase in government spending in the past 6 years. And where are the results to show for that, Lloyd? Whether it's...
This is what I said at the start of the show. So the money we put in so far, where are the results for that, Lloyd? So what we're going to do is put less money in and get better results. What? So I've got $1 million to spend in my house. Budget said it's $1 million. I'm only going to now spend $900,000. Well, you're going to get a lesser product. It's not going to be the same. But where are the results for that, Lloyd? The money that's been put in. So our plan as national is less money, better results. So what that means, either bullshit or it means people left over working 2 jobs to have to reach these targets, or their CEO will have to let them go. Where are the results? That's what I want to know.
Increased hospital waiting lists, declining educational achievement, increased violent crime. We just haven't been getting bang for buck. And public servants know we have to do better.
Now, in terms of those public servants, you must have crunched the numbers. How many job losses are there going to be?
Look, I don't have those numbers yet. The process we're running through is that proposals are being put up to ministers for where savings can be delivered. We've asked agencies to focus on low-value programs, back office bureaucracy, reducing the amount they're spending.
Remember very clearly, though, the last time we heard her speaking, which was in the last week or so, she couldn't identify what a back office was. And she wouldn't identify. So what they're telling you is back office employment might go, back office workers. What's the back office? We haven't decided yet. That was the last interview. So just be very careful with these words, because they may end up saying what the back office is the people who answered the 111 calls. Well, they're technically in the office out the back. We don't know.
Managers are in the back, Pat.
Yeah.
And everybody knows an organisation can run without managers. It can run with less managers, but still, it's vague. It's vague. You've been in the job for a while now. Surely you had a plan. You had the numbers before you were elected, right? Because you're going to hit the ground running.
Yeah.
How long does the vagueness? How long can you get away with the vagueness?
Yeah. When are we going to know what the back office jobs are? You didn't know a week ago. Do you know yet?
This is Ruth Richardson 2.0. If I see her walking into a shot carrying a ring binder, people are going down.
All right, this has got about.
And let's just say, just because I've invoked Ruth Richardson, that the psychic damage that woman did to this country, we have not escaped.
Yep,
we are still feeling it. And Nicola has a framed picture of her in a room and an signed autobiography on her bedstand. 100%.
All right, we'll keep going.
On consultants and contractors. Inevitably, some of those proposals will involve restructuring and fewer roles in some entities, but I don't have a forecast on those numbers yet.
But you must have a ballpark figure. I mean, we've been asking these, all through the election, during those coalition negotiations at the end of last year. Surely you've got some ballpark figure. Is it going to be thousands, tens of thousands?
No, I don't have those numbers because the process we're in is that individual proposals by agencies are now going through an assurance process. Ministers will then consider those proposals. We might reject some of them. We might ask some.
Oh, piss off. A CEO is going to come to you with an idea to reduce income. We might say no. We're happy to spend that money. Piss off.
For them to go a bit further, and then we'll take all of those together and assess the implications for headcount from there.
Okay,
so there's one more part of this conversation we're going to play, which is only 45 seconds, Chewie, and it's Lloyd asks her, how are you going to pay for your tax cuts? Which, funnily enough, she doesn't answer the question to start with, and then she goes, well, how do they do it? A very vague and non-committal answer after that. Let's just play that now, because then we can wrap up for the night and head off. So this is Lloyd asking the question about how you're paying for those tax cuts.
Budget date, May the 30th. Have you come up with a way to fund your tax cuts yet, or are you still working on it?
Yes, we are confident that we will be delivering tax reduction as we've promised New Zealanders.
Wasn't that a fantastic answer? How are you going to deliver them? Yes, we will deliver them. This is my hostage video. What am I supposed to say? Winston's just standing over there looking at me. How are you going to pay for them? Yes, we will deliver them. So of course, we're a very serious show here. We talk about things like Gaza and Israel. So he asked the question again.
As soon as they monetized feeding poor kids into some sort of mincer, that's when we'll know. Either that or GST to 20%.
So then she does answer it, and she still looks like she's in a hostage video, but we'll have a look.
Have you come up with a way to do that, though?
Yes, we have. You've seen from us that we've embarked on the savings drive already.
Cutting jobs, good, got that.
We've identified some future sources of revenue in particular.
Not going to explain that because we don't really have that sorted out yet.
New audit programs at the IRD to make sure people are paying their fair share of tax. Doing full cost recovery.
Though, Pat?
Yeah, no, that's true. I was saying, I wonder if it'll be the roundtable, business roundtable, or I wonder if it'll be Joe Blow who owns a dairy down the road. And
the IRD's already done that work.
Yep.
They did a whole report. National didn't want it to come out. It
311 families, yeah.
It's 311 families making out like bandits. You don't need to turn around and go, oh, the IRD's working out ways of auditing. Who? Are they the 311 families? No, because that's your fucking donor list.
Last bit.
For immigrants, processing of visas, introducing a gambling tax
fees
for
and
online
taxes. Fees and taxes from the national government. They're going to add fees and more taxes.
Gambling, and look, taken together, the changes that we're making, and they are across the board, mean that we can responsibly deliver tax relief. There
you go. So that fills everyone with the confidence we know. That's all I've got to play of Nicola Willis. The smiling assassin, as we're going to call her from now on.
Okay, guys. Thinking caps on.
Hang on. That's not my
Take
thinking.
your port hacker off.
This is my thinking cap.
What's
Okay.
that?
Hang on.
Too
hang
many,
on.
so many hats. You're juggling
Alright.
hats.
There we go.
Maybe
This
more
is my
hats,
thinking cap.
more thinking.
More thinking.
We need to come up with a term. This includes you, chat. This is a group project. Ruthanasia
Yep.
was a fantastic name for the regime of terror that Ruth Richardson unleashed on this country. As we've discussed, Nicola Ruth Richardson 2.0, we need to come up with a term that'll suit her down to a T. I've come up with Nicopolis. I don't think it's as strong as it could be.
What about Niconomics?
Niconomics? That just sounds like we're funding tax cuts by doing sweatshops and making undies.
Niconomics.
I don't know if that's the vibe we're going for.
You're all right. We'll start thinking.
We
We're
may
not going to
need to
think.
think
We're not going to
about
think
this
live
over
on
the
the broadcast. We are not going to
No.
think live on the
Because it hurts.
broadcast because that look and sound terrible.
But we've got a budget coming up. We've got some time.
Yeah, right. I don't mind Niconomics.
Niconomics is not bad. The Nicopolis. Yeah, I'm not in love with it. But we'll see what we can do. Someone
Nicolation. Do you know what's funny? Okay, here's a little side note, little tangent. We'll get it out there first, and then others will start to use it. Do you know what our old mate Oliver Karen Plunkett's now talking about? He's now talking about how the treaty referendum is kind of like Brexit. He started talking about the day after we played the James O'Brien conversation, and he started talking about it with Bryce Edwards. So the day after we talked about, and I did that whole thing about how there's a parallel to Brexit, Karen Plunkett, he's calling it Trexit now, which I'm assuming is treaty exit. The day after we talked about it. So just be careful when you make up a name or put a point out there, because you'll get someone out there who hasn't had an original thought in his life trying to use an idea for themselves. So when we come up with this, let's trademark it very quickly.
Okay. Nicola assets?
Nicola assets.
That's pretty good. That's the current front runner.
All right.
Keep at it.
Thanks, Annalise. All right, guys. It's been. I didn't do this last night, so I'm going to do it twice tonight because that's just how much we love you. Huge thanks to our patrons. Thank you so much for being involved. I said there might be a meetup this weekend. There's not going to be one this weekend, but we'll definitely do one next weekend, 100% guaranteed. And we appreciate all of you. And I can thank very much that 2 people have come in tonight, I think, and signed up to be patrons. It looks like I don't have my glasses on. It looks like Banterius Lemon and Colt are 2 people who have just signed up today. Remember, I was kind of joking, saying if we could get 10 people to sign up.
It's not a joke. He'll be furious.
I'll be furious. I'll be furious because I'll have to redesign the whole thing, and that'll use up my whole weekend. And so if you don't do it, then I'll have a more free weekend. So that's what I prefer. But if you did do it, that would just be such a pain in the back. Hey, tonight was spectacular, guys. Look, I said it during the show, but one of the things I love about the show, and you know what, I saw people in the chat saying, I love this show, is exactly that. Who would ever predict me making a redonkulous joke about wearing a pig hat would lead to a story about how she was involved with getting Lord to cancel a concert in Israel? There was a direct connection. As much as there is a direction between the ACT Party and the Netless Network, there was the Atlas Network, there was the same kind of connection between those lines to get there. So if you missed that show, you better go back and have a listen.
I just like someone stumbled in from YouTube, obviously, and put a comment halfway through that transition from pig hat to Lord, going, I thought this was a New Zealand current events show. Very confused.
Well, that's it, and that's
we
almost
are what we is, and that's almost what we are.
Almost a little bit, just don't. That's sacrilege. That sounds like we're supposed to be something. Don't label us. Sheesh. It's not as hot tonight. I'm not sweating at the end of the show, which was good.
I do remember just the tangent before we go. Final tangent. Talking about that story with Lord did remind me of something that I saw as that someone was running, in my memory, the world's biggest at the time Taylor Swift fan page, or something like that.
Probably one of my daughters.
And it was doing heaps of posts. It was doing real big numbers, and it just went silent. There's just no posts for months and months and months and months. And then it fired back up again. And everybody was like, oh my God, where did you go? And the person running it I went to prison because I wasn't going to go into the Israeli army.
Wow.
And I just remember that while she was saying that story. And it's like, yeah, cool. Good stuff.
I thought you were going to say something far more offensive than that. And if some of you watching, and I know you will, are watchers of left-wing content from overseas, I thought you were going to say something about like the current Vosh news going around the internet. I know some people will know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Vosh is a big left-wing commentator in America, and there has been some controversy around him in the last few days, which I'm not going to get into here. But you can go onto YouTube and have a look and find out for it yourself. I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. Okay, I think we're done. I am going to love you and leave you. I'll leave you with Chewy. Chewy, you want another hour by yourself? Just hanging out and chatting?
Not doing another hour.
Yeah.
Not doing another hour.
All right. Okay, team. We will catch you Monday night from 9 p.m. Now, just before we go, we are talking a little bit about, we've talked a little bit about patrons and stuff tonight. That conversation tonight, and look, not because
I've just found that news.
You don't.
It's very bad.
It's very bad. Yeah, but mind you, if you watch some of the clips on YouTube that are commenting on it, they don't show any of the imagery that's offensive. They just talk about it. And they use the word corn instead of the word that gets them banned off YouTube.
Who knows what that means, Pat?
We're getting a bit close. We've just had gold tonight. Nothing to do with me and Chewy. Literally nothing to do with us. Gold tonight. That will be made up into clips over the next few days. One way you can support us, and actually maybe even more importantly, support the cause and support what Justine and her team are doing, is to share those clips around. They'll be on YouTube and they'll be on Twitter, on my Twitter feed at Pat Brittenden, and they'll be on YouTube. So one way that you can actually help and support everything that we're about and the community around us is about is to share those clips and to tell people about them and to get people watching, and that would be fantastic. All right, Chewy's off to watch about 2 hours of YouTube right now to get caught up on it. And I will see you. Chewy won't be here on Monday because his eyes will be like this after watching all the story about the thing that I've just talked about. I will. People are talking about corn now. I will catch you Monday night. So will Chewy. We'll be back again Monday night from 9 p.m. for another edition of Big Hairy News. Stay safe, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday night. And remember, bring a friend. Hooroo.
Cheers, fam.